Welcome to the Uplifting Podcast. Today we talk to Alison Stockton, who is a health and wellness coach who has overcome so much in her life and is now empowering other women to do the same.
We talked to her about recovery through anorexia, bulimia, and orthorexia, and how her own emotional health almost killed her.
We also talk about the prevalence of eating disorders and body image issues in the fitness community, and what inspired her to change her career from helping people change externally to helping them heal internally. Now let's get into the episode. Hey y'all, it's Randy. There is a trigger warning for this episode. If you are listening to this episode and you feel triggered, please just go ahead and skip forward to the next incredible episode. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to the Uplifting Podcast with your hosts, Randy and Catherine.
This is a space for powerful women to share their story and to be real and raw about the truth of living your life's purpose.
Any topic is fair game. We check gossip at the door so we can focus on building community and collaboration.
This podcast will help you discover your individual power and give you the tools to live your most uplifted life.
So let's find out what's uplifting you today. Welcome to the Uplifting Podcast. Today we have Alison, and she is the founder of Vibrant Balanced Health. And she is a health and wellness lifestyle coach. She is committed to helping women connect to their physical and emotional well-being, especially with female entrepreneurs. So welcome to the podcast, Alison.
Yay. Oh, thanks, guys. It's amazing to be here. Thank you.
It's so good to have you. So we would love just to dive right into your story and learn more about how you became a health and wellness lifestyle coach and how you're impacting women today.
Oh, it's been a long old journey. I think I've been doing this more of my life than I haven't. I kind of started when I was 21 as a fitness instructor and personal trainer. And as I went into that, I really had massive body image issues. And actually, I realized the other day they started when I was 7 as a ballerina, had all the gear and no idea. And I remember I was speaking to my mum about it. And I remember I never wanted to go back because I felt like the fattest girl in the class. And that was at 7 years old. And that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then I probably messed with eating disorders from about the age of 13, 14. And by the time I was 21, I was really severely anorexic, but still hiding that behind being a fitness instructor to women. I think there was a huge pressure in the early stages of my career of needing to look a certain way. And that pressure was triggered by me just stopping eating and just pushing myself to the limits in the gym and never feeling good enough when I looked at myself and never feeling good enough to be looked at by my clients or the public, because it's a very public domain. You know, you're in the mirror all day, so you're looking at yourself all day. Back then, I was very judgmental of myself as well. So that toxic cycle just literally led me to ending up in hospital, actually, because I was so deprived of emotional connection with food. I was so deprived of any positivity of my own body and body awareness. And obviously I was food deprived as well because I wouldn't eat very much. So that kind of triggered through and just carried on really until I was about 24, 25. Then I'd really established a really very good clientele with personal training because, you know, I was the skinny girl and everybody wanted to look like you because you've got the muscles and this and that and the other. But what they didn't see inside was like, it was either feast or famine for me. So I would either not eat anything or completely binge eat because I was just either reaching burnout or probably slightly mildly depressed if I'd put on a few pounds, and it kind of, then your brain just triggers, oh, well, if you put on a few pounds, you may as well just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. until you can make yourself ill again. And that kind of went on until when I was with my partner at the time, we decided to have a child, and the kind of realizations came in thinking, God, I've done all this to my body. I don't even know if I'm going to get pregnant. You know, I hadn't had a menstrual cycle for like 4 years.
Oh,
Wow.
So was it going to happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, it did, thankfully, and it happened quite quickly. But during that time as well, I'd started to really push my business. So I wasn't an entrepreneur when I began. You were called as self-employed. You know,
yeah.
it's funny. Like, you're a self-employed, you have your own business. It's not, you're an entrepreneur. So that went on, and I started working with a lot of kind of high-end clients, women, even men, stockbrokers, bankers, you know, and they were always just pushing so hard at work, and probably making a little bit of time for themselves to go to the gym. And at that point, I still wasn't really connecting on an emotional level with either myself or my clients. It was like, just push them harder. They need to come to the gym. They're not to speak to me. You know, if they wanted to come and have like the chin wag and the therapy session, I'd be like, no, shut up. I'm not doing that. We need to get on. You need to work. You're here to sweat for an hour. I'm here to kick your ass for an hour. Because at that point, that's what I believed that was needed for them. That was their escape from work, or, you know, maybe they would only train 3 times a week with me and that might be it. So at that point, I felt that it was just, I've got to beast them, like, you know.
Yeah.
So even though I had like nutritional coaching at that point, I still probably I felt that they didn't want it, or it was more the case that there wasn't really enough time within the windows that I had them as personal training to go through all of that. And then obviously running my own business, I then had 2 children. So by the time I was 30, I had a very successful personal training business. I was leaving the house at 5:45 in the morning. I probably wouldn't get back until maybe, I might sneak back when they finished school for an hour and then shoot straight back to work, and then come back again for 8 o'clock to give kisses and tuck them into bed. And it was kind of like, it was working an hour, getting paid an hour, working an hour, getting paid for an hour, working out myself. I'd try and work in, some of my clients wanted me to train with them. So I would train with them. And before you knew it, I could probably clock up 20 hours a week in the gym with teaching classes. And of course, that comes with reaching burnout and anxiety, adrenal fatigue. And then autoimmune diseases started to hit me, because I'd literally just been on the go all the time without enough fuel in my body to support it. So it was a realization at that point that this is what female entrepreneurs do to themselves, whether they be a personal trainer, whether they be a business coach, whether they be a digital strategist, whether they be a life coach or whatever. They're striving so hard to make things work that they're not actually thriving in their life. Mm-hmm. So my transition was actually that all of my eating disorders and lots of stress and anxiety had caused it's I can't say it properly, vasosagral syncope, which is, and I always get it the wrong way around, so I've probably got the wording wrong. Because I'd become so anxious, my blood would stop going to my brain on occasion, and I would actually just pass out.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And this happened, it happened a few times. It happened when I was a teenager, and I never really thought anything of it because I thought people would think I was weird. So I never said anything. I just kind of thought, it's like a deja vu. So I brushed it off. And then a few years ago, we'd moved. There was lots of personal issues going on at the time, and the anxiety started to come back even more. And I was in a car, and unfortunately, the incident happened when I was driving. So the blood stopped pumping to my brain, and I just passed out whilst driving the car. And obviously, as I'd passed out, my foot hit the pedal and I went quite fast, and smashed into a concrete bollard and 10 other cars. So, you know, thank the Lord that everybody in the other cars were were fine. And I honestly don't know what happened. I just remember being woken up and being stretchered out of the car.
Wow.
And it's kind of, you know, it was a lesson. So I look at it now and I see that was a lesson I've learned from it, to share my experiences, that when you're not looking after yourself on a complete, you know, divine feminine energy and understanding all that you deserve and all that you desire, these things happen. And at that time, it kind of gives me goosebumps now as I'm thinking about it. At the time, because the anxiety and the depression were there, and again, I was still training clients, I was still a PT, so I was still smiling my way through all of it. And I just remember thinking, why didn't I just die? Why am I here? What for? When I feel this way and I feel so low about myself and So that's when I made the decision to transition into health coaching rather than personal training. So I did my year study with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is an American school, which they have thousands and thousands and thousands of graduates now, helping women and men all over the world to live their healthiest and wholesome lifestyle. And so that's where, during that time, I wasn't sure of the niche. I was still working with men, and albeit I've had men clients throughout my entire career, my decision came to help this. I can't seem to find in the dictionary another word for busy, because that's what we all are right now, right? Everybody in this millennial world is busy or just hectic or doesn't seem to have enough time. And it's about, if you do not create enough time, then it's not important enough to you. So if you are a woman who is just kind of striving and not thriving, then it's time to take a reality check, take some time back, and really start to focus on what is important to you. And long gone are the days where I need to spend 3 hours in the gym to work out, or, you know, count my calories or count my macronutrients, or, you know, can't have this on that day, and And helping female entrepreneurs, particularly as a mum and as a busy business owner, entrepreneur, as I was then, you know, with 2 small children and literally balance. And I was a single mum as well in between all of that, you know, so finding some harmony within a lifestyle is what you create it. So I wanted to share with women how they can create, whether they're a mum or not, whether they're a single mum or not, or whether they're just kind of making excuses to not live the healthiest and happiest lifestyle that they can have.
That is quite the story. I'm like, okay.
That's so incredible.
It's interesting because I see a lot of myself in your same story.
Same.
I was also a personal trainer about the same age, and more in college I was dealing with body issues, not to the point of serious eating disorders, but I would stop eating for like a meal. I'd skip a meal for the sake of wanting to lose weight, not to like, because now it's more of like an intermittent fasting, or I'll fast for spiritual reasons. But back then it was like, I need to lose weight, I'm not going to eat. And then, I did the personal training, and like, I think, and maybe that's just me, and you can attest to this, but I think the lifestyle of a personal trainer is not of health, which is so interesting, because I went through the same thing where I would sit with a client and I knew that their issues came from an emotional issue, not a physical, they need to work out issue. And so there's not enough hours in the day with your clients for you to sit down and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you eating? Why are you not working out? And you would never get to the why of that. I understand.
Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard when you're a trainer, because sometimes they don't want that, because they don't. Right. I mean, right. I know I've been coach, therapist, relationship coach, and everything to my clients, you know, because I used to train like men and wives, or then they divorce, and I trained the man and the wife and the girlfriend and the boyfriend, and I'd have to make sure that they weren't all in the gym at the same time, and all these logistics used to go on. So in between being that coach and, you know, therapy session, there wasn't enough time to kind of say, are you eating? What are you eating? Can you kind of tell me? Can you take pictures so I can see through the day if you're having enough to nurture and nourish your body? And, you know, like you say, and then you just kind of go, yeah, I'm fine. I haven't eaten for 10 hours actually, but I'm fine.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I hear from, what I hear from Catherine's story and also from your story and my own personal experience is there's so much more eating disorders and unhealthy behaviors that really are occurring in the fitness community than we even talk about or acknowledge. So can you tell us about like your experience all your years as a personal trainer and maybe some of those unhealthy behaviors that you witnessed in the fitness community?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, being in the mirror all the time, it was that body dysmorphia. And it's as I've matured into my role as a health coach, probably more so than when I was a personal trainer. I hear it even up to the point of last year when I was still training clients. It's like, you know, if I train a pair of friends together, oh, but you've got great boobs. No, I've got crap boobs. Yeah, but look at your ass. You've got a great ass. I'd love your ass. My ass is this. And it was all that self-criticism, you know, so the self-criticism would come from your clients. And sometimes I think as a personal trainer, if you're not emotionally intelligent enough at that time, you can start judging yourself. Yeah. You think, well, what's my trainer thinking of me? If I don't perform in that certain way, what are they going to think of me? If I gain weight, what are they going to think of me? You know, and a lot of pressure. And if you've got really hot, like PTs, young PTs in the gym, and you've been doing it a bit of a long time and you've been hanging around, you know, you're thinking, yeah, I really need to up my game because, you know, I need to lift a bit heavier, or I need to do a few more sets or something, or run. That was my thing. I would run. And I think there was, you know what, I think this is very prominent in men as well in the gym. I know we're talking about women, but I think for men, so much more, you know, and you can see the testosterone and they're like, he's lifting heavier weights, I'm going to lift heavier weights, or he's a bit leaner, so I'm not going to eat any carbs. And, you know, I think I can see it more in the men, especially in the gym.
I can attest as a woman who is stronger than a lot of men.
Yeah.
I get that a lot of times where they're like,
yeah.
So, but it's, you know, I think you're so right on. Like, we don't even talk about the body image issues that men have. But, you know, in the fitness community, I think even, you know, when asking that question, I was more focused on the women, but it's like you said, it's even the men in our lives who are struggling with these body image issues as well.
Totally. You know, and I think for men particularly, they don't get, you know, endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, all that differences makes a massive difference to how, and for men as well, how your muscle grows. So if you are smaller, you grow muscle mass quicker. If you're taller, you're never going to look like the guy that's 5'5". You know, you're 6'2". You've got to work so much harder to be able to get those results. And that's, you know, what I was saying about the women comparing. They were both petite, these particular ladies, both petite, but very different body shapes completely. So she was never going to look like her, and she was never going to look like her, even though she wanted this that she had and she wanted that she had. It's like, girls, come on, I'm going to record it next time. You're amazing. Look at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead if you needed to. I'm curious, I'm just going to jump right into this question. At your worst with your eating disorders, what did that look like? Because like in my mind, I wouldn't say necessarily I had an eating disorder, but I was probably on a spectrum. And for other women out there, maybe who just don't understand what that spectrum looks like at your worst, what did that look like? Even at your not worst, what did that look like? Like, what am I trying to say?
What is the range of behaviors?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the range of behaviors that you've seen or you've exhibited in eating disorders?
I was teaching classes. I was also attend classes. So I was probably doing about 20 classes a week, plus running, plus training in the gym. Some days I'd eat an apple and maybe a black coffee, maybe a yogurt.
Wow.
And then if I felt gross the next day, I wouldn't eat anything and I'd run a little bit further. And it got to the point where I'm 5'8", and my lowest weight was about 43 kilos. So I don't know what that
Figure that out in pounds. I'm getting my calculator.
Wow.
Whatever.
That's crazy.
44 kilos.
It's something. It was between 43.
97 pounds about.
Wow.
Okay.
About 97 pounds. Yeah. So for a 5'8" woman, that's very small.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to live in the Channel Islands at this time, and I used to run, and we used to have pound notes. They weren't coins, like $1 note or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always put it in my trainer, in my sneakers, and I was running. Didn't feel right. The sun was shining anyway, but I could just feel my head just felt so itchy, and I couldn't touch it. And then I went to get the bottle of water in the shop that I always got it before I went back to the gym where I worked. And I remember taking the water and I couldn't put it near my lips. And what had happened is my blood vessels had dilated to the surface, and my lips looked like I didn't need any lip fillers or anything like that. They'd gone like proper trout pout. My body was
Wow.
It was itchy, it was hot, it was cold, and I managed to get, I know it's weird, your body goes into kind of like, it was shut down protection mode. I think it was trying to swallow itself to sort itself out. But I remember getting back to the gym and they saw me and my body started to convulse. So it kind of it convulsed and then went into spasm, so I couldn't move, which is the weirdest thing. And it gives me kind of goosebumps now to think about it. But anyway, the ambulance came and they put me on a drip and took me to the hospital, and it kept happening again while I was in the ambulance.
Wow.
And I remember they gave me just literally like squash, orange squash, to try and get that back in, as well as the drips. And I remember they let me go to the bathroom, and as I was in the bathroom, it happened again. And I couldn't do anything because I had no control of my body. It was like a fit, like an epileptic fit, but then it just stopped rigid, so you couldn't move my body at all.
Wow. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Oh my God. Okay.
No. And again, the psychology of that then was having a slap on the hand, because one of the doctors was a member of the gym. So having a slap, being told, silly girl, you know what to do, blah, 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 blah. Make sure you take rest. And at 5 o'clock the next morning, I felt so gross because I'd had all these stuff pumped into me that automatically went into your stomach. So my stomach felt bloated. It didn't feel like it belonged to me. So I was up. There's no mountains in Jersey, but there is one big hill. So I decided to take myself off and hike up the hill at 5 o'clock in the morning, just to start to get my body moving, so I could try and rid of this feeling. Because what many people who have never experienced something like anorexia or bulimia is that it is a complete control, and that was out of my control because somebody else had done it. I could control if I didn't want milk in my coffee. I could, it would be stupid things like if I had a green salad, there was to be no onions and no dressing in it. It would just green salad. If it came with anything else, it would just be, can you take it back and change it, please? And not even knowingly, I'd be so kind of, oh my God, they put onions in it, or oh my God, there's something on it. I cannot have that, because onions make your breath smell. And if I'd eaten something that had onions, people would know that I'd eaten. And they would associate that it was all this like weird stuff that goes through your head while it's, yeah. So, and then literally within 6 months of that happening, there was a massive switch, and I doubled my weight within 6 months.
Wow.
And went on the road of bulimia.
Wow.
And then you shifted to bulimia, where you were like binging and purging.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
And it was that because what was the transition like from anorexia to bulimia? Was it these health complications that were coming up, or
there was an emotional trigger. There was a family emotional trigger. And I remember buying, and I don't really like chocolate. I don't know why. It was just that binge cycle. I bought the biggest, and I'm talking big, massive. Do you know Toblerone?
Yeah.
Toblerone. I bought the biggest bar I could find. And over a period of me traveling from Jersey to the UK, I'd eaten the entire thing. and then felt like I was just gorging. So I needed to eat more, whether it be bread or stodge or ice cream, which I can't eat either. And then if I couldn't get rid of it and I couldn't make myself sick enough, I would then start the cycle of taking laxatives so that I knew it was going to come out some way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting because I was never, quote unquote, diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I had so many disordered eating behavior patterns where, you know, I would do the same thing where I would really restrict myself and not eat for like a period of time, or really limit myself, and then I would binge. Or the laxative thing was a huge thing where it was like, if I was feeling bloated or like my weight went up a little bit, I'm like, I'm just going to take a bunch of laxatives and just get everything out of my system. And like, and being somebody who's bigger, I never thought that I could have an eating disorder. So that was like, I never thought that was possible because I wasn't, you know, like 97 pounds or like stick thin. So I didn't think that that was possible for me. But through my, you know, recovery over the past couple years, acknowledging that that was part of my journey has really helped me to heal that part of my story. So I would like to know, like, what helped you heal your story and overcome this, I mean, just crazy path. You know, I mean, you've been through so much in your past, and now you're really a beacon of light for so many women who are overcoming eating disorders and trying to live their best life.
It's trying to realize the triggers. And I know for a fact, for me, when I was little, you know, it sits in your subconscious and, oh, she's a bit chunky. Oh, isn't she cute? She's chunky. And, you know, I don't really think I was when I look back at photographs, but something that somebody says to you repeatedly obviously has a reaction. Every action is a reaction from somebody else. And I think it just, I'll tell you where the eating disorder of the anorexia started. My boyfriend at the time, going back many years ago, his mum was a larger lady. And just flippantly, I said, would you still love me if I was as big as your mum? No.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. That was the trigger. That was I remember it. I can see it. We're at a fuel station in a red car. I know the exact thing. And that's what started that cycle and triggered going really, really, you know, to the next spiraled level. I mean, you know, at school, I was vegetarian from 11 years old to 23, but then I would start making excuses if we'd go out to restaurants that was nothing on the menu that I could eat. Oh, it's okay, I'll just have the green salad, it's fine because there's nothing on the menu for me. So it's, you know, don't make a fuss, it's fine. But really, it was okay because I could just brush it off. So that was that emotional trigger. And as I said, from the other side of the eating disorder to go to bulimia, it was an emotional trigger again, from a family issue. And I think what balanced it out, I was 23, I was managing a health club, had lots of responsibility. I started to get my shit together, if you like, and realized that I was constantly living with IBS, constantly in pain. You know, I was embarrassed to teach classes at some points because I would still do all my classes as well as running the club. And because if anybody knows about IBS, you can literally bloat within an hour of looking like you're 6-7 months pregnant. Oh, and I'd become more embarrassed, and it would either be, you know, and that's from the laxatives, that's from me messing up my system, that's an autoimmune issue, because obviously there wasn't enough good bacteria to fuel the bad bacteria in my stomach at the time. And then I just started to get healthier. I started to lose weight. Because bread was always the bad thing for me. It's what triggered the IBS. It's if I had bread, I didn't know when to stop eating bread. Or, you know, just stupid things like in my really bad states of bulimia, I just grab, do you know scones, like the British scones? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd grab them and I just shovel them in. And I knew it was going to make me feel poorly. But I'd be like, no, I just got to eat them. I don't care if there's nothing on it. I just got to shovel them in and get as many as I can. And my mum would sometimes, if I was staying with my mum, I'd kind of take half. And I think, oh, just have all of them. you know, there's like 4 or 6 in a pack, I'll have them all. So it was about knowing what foods, if I start, can I stop? If I know that's going to take me on that cycle, can I stop doing it? So I just cut out all the foods that I knew were a trigger that would make it happen for me. So the bread went, I didn't eat pasta, I rarely ate potatoes. I would just cut ice cream, because obviously my pattern would be eat a carton of ice cream, eat some jelly babies, go be sick.
Yeah.
So they're all the foods like, no, stay away from them. You don't need them. And that's what I still do now. I find it really difficult to approach those foods because it might happen. And it's about, you know, nurturing your body again. So realizing that because of all the stuff that I did, and I do believe that everything I've gone through is a lesson to share with everybody else. So I've learned it the hard way so that somebody else doesn't have to. And if we can help sooner, because it would always be the case, you know, if you'd see somebody in the gym and you knew they were anorexic, it would always be, Alison, can you go and talk to them? No, I can't. I'm not clinically able to approach them because I don't know what effect me going to them is going to have on them. I said, I can't just tell them to not come into the gym. This could be her only escapism. This could be her space for what she needs to clear in her own mind. So it's not our place to tell her she can't come here. And it's not my place, without building a relationship, to go and tell her that she can't come here. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I understand and I can see other people's emotional triggers, which is why I ask, where do you think this started from? Can you relate or understand how? And I'll never forget one lady in particular, was really heavy, a young woman, but really, really heavy, twice the size what she should be, joint pain, back pain, skin issues. And I said, you know, we got a little bit closer in our relationship, and I asked her the question, and she said it was when my parents separated at 10. And she was in her 40s. So she knew that comforting stage of eating the whole packet of biscuits when she was feeling emotional was what she would do to kind of sound out all the noise that was going on at that period. But that had followed her through. So her children had then gone off to boarding school. She was emotional about that. So there was another trigger and another trigger and another trigger and another trigger. So I you know, I don't know where she's at right now, but that was about 5 years ago when I moved. So, but I knew that it was still there, but I didn't know enough then to help her as much as I could if I'd stepped back into it right now. But everything has an emotional trigger, and sometimes it's when we don't believe in ourselves enough. We do it. Like you were saying, when you were in the gym, you know, you'd probably miss a meal if you felt that, you know, you just needed to lose a few pounds, or imagine you take some laxatives because you just felt you didn't feel right. But did you not feel right, or did you think that you didn't look right to other people?
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's usually worrying about what we look like to other people, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I want to sit here and talk with you all day. I'm like, dang it.
So many, yeah.
I like, oh my God, I just have so many questions. Unfortunately, we don't have all day.
I know.
Damn it. But I do want to ask, is there anything that you what am I trying to say? You would have liked us to ask you? Are there any questions that we didn't bring up that you'd like to answer yourself?
Like I could be in here all night. I've got so many stories to share and so many different journeys. No, I think women are amazing creatures, amazing just human beings that are able to do, be, and create so much more than sometimes they allow themselves permission to do. And I think that's why women like you and me and all the other empowering women that are out there are just literally spreading the message that that's what women can be. We're no longer victims of any circumstances. We have a right to make a decision, you know. And I always it always really frustrates me how periods of time have gone on. I mean, if you look back, Queen Cleopatra, Queen Esther, Queen Elizabeth, they're all queens ruling countries. And then suddenly there's this big divide of where women can't get to being the CEO of the company. They can't be the director. They feel that they can't have a voice. They're always competing with the man. I'm like, look back in history, would you? Take a look at these queens. They were like setting the precedents thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, and literally stepping into their queenhood and being incredible, magnificent women. And somewhere along the line, as we've got to today's age, we forgot about it, and gradually we're just starting to come back up to literally not sit quietly, that to look at ourselves with the same amount of respect. That when I say a man, we've already covered that a man sometimes can have image issues, but I think they don't have as many as a woman does, because we feel that we have to be something that we're not. And it's about absolutely no, owning every single part of you, owning all of you. And if you're not happy with it, you don't need to change. You just need to create what you want to become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like you said, I think women especially, we're kind of told that we have to look a certain way versus guys. Like, I think so much of our worth and our value as women comes out of how we look, right? Because we're supposed to be, you know, the beautiful like species, right? So we're supposed to look a specific way. And so I, you know, like we talked about, I do think men have their own issues, but I really believe that women, especially, the pressure is just totally different that we have on ourselves to look a specific way.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I just love the work that you're doing because it's so important in this world.
Yeah.
So our final question that we ask all of our guests, you know, because this is the Uplifting Podcast and we want to give our listeners, you know, action steps that they can start using in their lives to create the positive change that they're desiring. What would be 3 things that you could give our listeners that they could start implementing in their lives today to start being more uplifted?
One of the things that I personally started to shift was my messaging to myself, even when I'm brushing my teeth. You know, I look at yourself, and if you see wrinkles or you see scars or you see things that are different that you would have previously liked to change, thank you. I'm thankful that I have this scar because it reminds me that I'm still here. I'm thankful that my nose is a bit beaky because it makes me a bit different and a bit quirky. I am thankful for the way that my smile slants. It's about turning all the things around that you weren't happy with to make them positive when you're just brushing your teeth. Super easy. When you look at yourself in a reflection walking past a window, instead of giving yourself self-criticism and self-judgment, it's like, oh, look at you. Look at all you are. Look at all you've achieved. And that was a big shift for me, because when I would look in the mirror and see my ass not looking quite how it would, I wanted it to. The negative voice would be, ugh, that's disgusting. You need to wrap that up. People can't see that. Da, da, da. And I remember seeing it again this summer in a reflection in shorts, and I went, okay, it's not quite where it needs to be. I need to work on that. Mm-hmm. Instead of the, you know, the real negative things. And number 3 is just literally nurture yourself, look after yourself from the inside out. When you put the nutrition in, you get so much more out of your life. It's like expecting the fish to flourish in the sea when it's in a drought. How is that going to happen? It needs to have a current. It needs to flow. It needs to be fresh. It needs to be clear. And that's what you need to do with your nutrition, because that changes your whole outlook of life. When you're eating, I almost want to say, the rainbow of colors, it makes you happier, because food changes your mood. So really do change your language, look at your body with respect and gratitude, and nurture yourself from the inside out.
Love it.
Amazing.
Alison, thank you so much for being with us. This has been
fantastic. And I want to get to Hawaii now because it's cold.
Yes.
Come hang out. For our audience, if they would like to connect with you, how can they do that? How can they best connect with you?
Well, I have called the company Vibrant Balanced Health. So they can find me on Instagram, which is vibrant_balanced_health. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. On Facebook, I have a private group. It's I can't remember all the URLs, but it's Vibrant Balanced Health for aspiring female entrepreneurs. So that's the private Facebook group, and my website is in the process of being redone, but when it's ready, then it will just be vibrantbalancedhealth.com.
I'll put all of the information down below in the description and the notes.
Thank you.
All find that. Alison, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Loved it. Mwah.
Thank you so much for sharing a piece of your day with us.
Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on.
To continue the conversation, follow Catherine and Randy on social media. Our links are listed in the show notes.
We can't wait to share another powerful story with you next week. And until then,
Stay uplifted.